Welcome to the Think Forward podcast, where we speak with futurists, innovators, and big thinkers. Come along with your host, Steve Fisher, and explore the future together.
Welcome back to Foundations in Foresight, a Think Forward series. I'm Steve Fisher, and today we're taking our exploration of personal foresight to the next level. In our last episode, we discussed personal futures mapping, creating visual representations of possible futures that connect directly to your goals and aspirations. Today, we're going to build on that foundation by designing a complete personal foresight system that you can integrate into your daily life. You see, effective foresight isn't just about occasional exercises or one-off scenario sessions. It's about creating a consistent practice that continually informs your decisions, broadens your awareness, and helps you navigate uncertainty with confidence. Just as athletes develop training systems and artists establish creative routines, foresight practitioners need structured approaches that turn occasional insights into ongoing awareness. By the end of this episode, you'll have a blueprint for creating a personal foresight system tailored specifically to your life, work, and aspirations. We'll cover the essential components of an effective system, practical tools for implementation, and strategies for sustaining your practice even when life gets busy. Let's dive in. The core elements of a personal foresight system. A robust personal foresight system consists of 5 interconnected elements that work together to expand your perception of what's possible and inform your decisions. Think of these as the essential building blocks that, when combined, create something greater than the sum of its parts. The first element is signal scanning. This is your personal radar system, your way of systematically monitoring changes in your environment, profession, and areas of interest. Effective scanning helps you spot emerging patterns and weak signals before they become obvious to everyone else. The second element is sensemaking. This is where you process and interpret the signals you've collected, looking for meaningful patterns and potential implications. Without sensemaking, scanning just leaves you with a collection of interesting observations but no actionable insights. The third element is scenario development. Building on your sensemaking, this is where you explore multiple possible futures and their implications for your personal and professional life. As we discussed in our last episode, scenarios help you prepare for different possibilities rather than betting everything on a single prediction. The fourth element is strategic decision-making. This is where foresight connects directly to action. Using your scenarios and insights, you make choices that are robust across multiple futures, positioning yourself advantageously regardless of exactly how things unfold. And the fifth element is reflection and learning. This is the feedback loop that helps your system improve over time. By regularly reviewing what you noticed, what you missed, and how your thinking has evolved, you continuously refine your foresight capabilities. Now, let's explore how to implement each of these elements in ways that fit your unique context and constraints. Designing your signal. Scanning practice. Signal scanning is the foundation of your foresight system, your way of staying attuned to change before it becomes obvious. But with the overwhelming amount of information available today, how do you scan effectively without getting lost in the noise? The key is to be strategic and systematic. Here's how to design a scanning practice that works for you. First, identify your scanning domains. These are the specific areas you want to monitor for emerging changes. I recommend selecting 3 to 5 domains that are most relevant to your goals and interests. These might include your industry or profession, adjacent fields that could impact your work, technologies that might disrupt or enable your activities, social or cultural shifts affecting your customers or community, policy or regulatory changes in your region or sector. By focusing on specific domains rather than trying to track everything, you make scanning manageable while still capturing relevant signals. Next, select diverse information sources. For each domain, identify 2 to 3 high-quality sources that provide different perspectives. These might include industry publications and newsletters, research papers and academic journals, social media accounts of leading thinkers, podcasts and video content, community forums and discussion groups. The key is diversity. You want sources that challenge your thinking, not just those that confirm what you already believe. And remember, some of the most valuable signals come from the edges, not the mainstream. Then, establish a regular scanning routine. Consistency matters more than duration. A focused 20-minute scan twice a week is more effective than an occasional deep dive. Block this time in your calendar and treat it as a non-negotiable appointment with the future. I find that creating a specific structure for scanning sessions helps maintain focus. For instance, you might spend the first 10 minutes reviewing your regular sources, the next 5 minutes exploring a new source, and the final 5 minutes capturing any significant signals or insights. Finally, develop a system for capturing signals. This could be as simple as a dedicated notebook or digital document, or as sophisticated as a personal knowledge management system like Notion, Roam, or Obsidian. The important thing is to have a single place where signals accumulate over time, making it easier to spot patterns and connections. For each signal you capture, note what caught your attention and why, where you encountered it, potential implications for your domains of interest, any connections to other signals you've noticed. Over time, this collection becomes a valuable resource that reveals patterns you might otherwise miss. Crafting your sense-making process, collecting signals, is only valuable if you periodically step back to make sense of what you're seeing. This sense-making process transforms isolated observations into meaningful insights that can inform your decisions and actions. Here's how to design an effective sense-making practice. Schedule regular sense-making sessions. These might be monthly or quarterly, depending on the pace of change in your domains. During these sessions, review the signals you've collected and look for patterns, contradictions, and surprising developments. Use structured prompts to guide your reflection. Questions like these can help surface meaningful insights. What patterns am I noticing across multiple domains? What contradictions or tensions are emerging? What assumptions of mine have been challenged by recent signals? What's noticeably absent or changing more slowly than expected? What might these signals mean for my future opportunities and challenges? Create visual maps to see connections. Visual tools like mind maps, systems diagrams, or affinity clusters can help you see relationships between signals that might not be obvious in linear notes. Don't worry about artistic quality. The goal is to make patterns visible, not create a masterpiece. Develop provisional hypotheses. Based on your sense-making, formulate hypotheses about how things might unfold. These aren't predictions, but rather educated guesses that you can test and refine over time. For example, if trends A, B, and C continue, we might see the emergence of new opportunities in Area X within the next few years. Share your thinking with others. Sense-making improves dramatically when you engage diverse perspectives. Find a colleague, friend, or online community where you can discuss your observations and get feedback on your interpretations. The goal isn't consensus, but rather enriching your understanding through multiple viewpoints. Remember, sense-making isn't about being right. It's about developing a richer understanding of emerging possibilities. Be willing to revise your interpretations as new information emerges. Developing your scenario approach. Building on your signal scanning and sense-making, scenario development helps you explore multiple possible futures and their implications for your life and work. As we discussed in our last episode, scenarios aren't predictions. They're plausible stories about how the future might unfold in different ways. Here's how to incorporate scenario thinking into your personal foresight system. Choose a scenario approach that works for you. There are many methods for developing scenarios, but for personal foresight, I recommend 3 practical approaches. The 2 uncertainties matrix. Identify 2 major uncertainties that could significantly impact your future. Place them as axes on a 2x2 matrix, creating 4 distinct scenarios to explore. This is quick, visual, and helps you see contrasting possibilities clearly. The 3 futures method. Develop 3 distinct scenarios, a continuation of current trends, a challenging disruption, and a transformative opportunity. This balanced approach helps you prepare for both risks and opportunities. The day in the life approach. Rather than abstract scenarios, imagine specific days in your life 3 to 5 years from now, under different conditions. This narrative approach makes futures tangible and helps you connect big picture changes to daily experience. Conduct scenario exercises quarterly or semi-annually. Unlike scanning, which happens weekly, scenario development works better as a periodic deep dive. Schedule these sessions when you have mental space for creative thinking, perhaps during a personal retreat or a dedicated weekend morning. Focus on implications and indicators. For each scenario you develop, identify what this future would mean for your skills, career, and goals. Early indicators that would suggest this scenario is becoming more likely. Actions you could take now that would be valuable in this particular future. Revisit and refine your scenarios over time. As you continue scanning and sense-making, update your scenarios to incorporate new insights. Are certain futures becoming more or less plausible? Are new possibilities emerging that you hadn't previously considered? Use scenarios as thought experiments, not predictions. The value of scenarios isn't in guessing which one will happen, but in expanding your thinking about what could happen. This mental flexibility helps you recognize opportunities and challenges earlier than others, connecting foresight to strategic decisions. The ultimate purpose of your personal foresight system is to inform better decisions, choices that position you advantageously for multiple possible futures. This is where foresight becomes practical and valuable in your daily life. Here's how to connect your foresight work directly to decision-making. Develop decision criteria based on your scenarios. For major decisions, create a simple checklist of questions drawn from your scenario work. For example, how would this choice play out in each of the futures I've explored? Does this option create value across multiple scenarios? Or is it dependent on a specific future? Does this decision close doors or open them to future possibilities? Am I accounting for changes I've observed in my scanning practice? Create a personal strategic advisory board. Identify 3 to 5 people whose judgment you trust and who offer diverse perspectives. Before making significant decisions, consult with them, sharing relevant insights from your foresight work. Their input can help you see blind spots and alternatives you might miss on your own. Build a portfolio of options rather than a single plan. Instead of committing to one rigid path, develop a portfolio of possibilities that allows you to adapt as conditions change. This might include core investments in skills and relationships that create value across scenarios, small experiments to test hypotheses about emerging opportunities, hedge moves that protect against potential disruptions. Establish review triggers for your decisions. Identify specific conditions or developments that would prompt you to reconsider your approach. For example, if trend X accelerates beyond point Y, I'll revisit this decision and consider alternatives. These triggers help you adapt proactively rather than clinging to outdated choices. Practice just-in-time decision-making. Not all decisions need to be made immediately. Sometimes the best choice is to keep options open while gathering more information. Your foresight practice helps you distinguish between decisions that require immediate action and then those that can benefit from waiting. Remember, the goal isn't perfect prediction. It's making choices that are robust across multiple futures and position you to adapt as conditions change. Sustaining your foresight practice. Even the best designed system is only effective if you actually use it consistently. Let's talk about how to sustain your personal foresight practice over time, especially when life gets busy and immediate demands compete for your attention. First, start small and build gradually. Don't try to implement everything at once. Begin with just one element, perhaps a 20-minute scanning session once a week, and build the habit before adding more components. Small, consistent practices are more sustainable than occasional deep dives. Second, integrate foresight into existing routines. Look for ways to incorporate futures thinking into activities you already do. For example, add a futures lens to your weekly planning or review. Discuss emerging trends with colleagues during regular meetings. Listen to futures-oriented podcasts during your commute or exercise. Share interesting signals with friends or family at dinner. Third, use technology wisely. Digital tools can either enhance or undermine your practice depending on how you use them. Consider setting up dedicated RSS feeds or newsletter folders for scanning. Using note-taking apps that make it easy to connect ideas and spot patterns. Setting calendar reminders for regular foresight activities. Creating digital templates for your scanning, sense-making, and scenario work. Fourth, find or create a foresight community. Shared practices are more sustainable than solo efforts. This could be a formal futures cohort that meets regularly to discuss emerging trends, an informal futures coffee with colleagues interested in similar domains, an online community focused on anticipatory thinking, a learning partner with whom you exchange observations and insights. Finally, celebrate small wins and insights. Recognize when your foresight practice helps you spot an opportunity, avoid a pitfall, or simply make a better informed decision. These moments of validation reinforce the value of your system and motivate continued practice. Customizing your system for different contexts. One of the strengths of a personal foresight system is that it can be adapted to different life circumstances and professional contexts. Let's explore how to customize your approach based on your specific situation. For entrepreneurs and business owners, your system might emphasize scanning for emerging customer needs and market shifts, scenarios focused on industry disruptions and competitive dynamics, decision frameworks that balance short-term survival with long-term positioning, quarterly strategy reviews that integrate foresight insights. For corporate professionals, your approach might focus on scanning for changes that could affect your organization or role, building scenarios that explore potential reorganizations or skill shifts, decision criteria that consider both personal career resilience and organizational value, strategic conversations with mentors who can provide broader context. For creatives and independent workers, your system might prioritize scanning cultural shifts and emerging audience preferences, scenarios exploring alternative income streams and creative opportunities,
decision frameworks that balance creative fulfillment with financial sustainability,
Foresight communities that connect you with diverse perspectives.
For those in transition periods, your practice might emphasize scanning broadly across multiple potential domains, scenarios focused on alternative paths and futures,
Decision criteria that prioritize learning and optionality. Short-term experiments to test assumptions about different possibilities.
Remember, your Foresight system should serve your context and goals, not the other way around. Don't hesitate to adapt these suggestions to fit your unique circumstances.
Getting started, your next steps.
As we wrap up today's exploration of personal Foresight systems, let's focus on concrete next steps to help you begin or enhance your practice. Start with a system audit. Reflect on what Foresight activities you're already doing, even informally. Where are the gaps in your current approach? Which of the 5 elements, scanning, sense-making, scenario development, decision-making, or reflection, needs the most attention? Choose one practice to implement this week. Based on your audit, select a single activity to begin with, perhaps a 20-minute scanning session, a sense-making exercise, or a scenario sketch. Keep it simple and achievable. Schedule your Foresight activities. Block time in your calendar for your chosen practice. Treat these appointments with the future as seriously as you would any other commitment. Create a simple capture system. Decide where and how you'll record signals, insights, and scenarios. This could be a physical notebook, a digital note-taking app, or a dedicated document. Find at least one Foresight ally. Identify someone with whom you can share observations, discuss implications, and exchange feedback. This accountability and perspective will strengthen your practice. Remember, the perfect system is the one you'll actually use. Start with what feels manageable and evolve your approach as your capacity and confidence grow. Looking ahead, in our next episode, we'll explore how to map your complete Foresight journey from signals to strategy. We'll discuss practical ways to connect the dots between scanning, scenarios, and strategic action, ensuring that your Foresight practice creates tangible value in your life and work. Until then, I encourage you to begin building your personal Foresight system. Even small steps toward more structured futures thinking can yield significant benefits in an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world. Your future self will thank you for the awareness, adaptability, and strategic advantage that comes from a well-designed Foresight practice. Thank you for joining me today. Keep building, keep practicing, and as always, think forward.
Thanks for listening to the Think Forward podcast. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms and at www.thinkforwardshow.com, as well as on YouTube under Think Forward Show. See you next time.